Hey everyone, it's Kai from Cool Collectibles back again for another review. This time it's the Storm Collectibles Ryu and Ken from Ultra Street Fighter 2. For a place to get all your collectibles, click the link in the description below to head on over to Big Bad Toy Store. They ship worldwide, so definitely check them out. Alright, I have had these ready for review for a couple of weeks now, I think. But it has been a bit of a crazy few weeks with work and family stuff, so apologies for that. But if you have followed the channel in the past, you will know that I am a massive fan of Street Fighter. I've played Street Fighter 2 since about the early 90s, so it's been a long time. The only other Street Fighter figures I have in the collection are from the Bandai SH Figure Art series, which are definitely a very different aesthetic to what you get with the Storm Collectibles. I was trying to avoid doubling up on characters and so on in this smaller scale, but once they announced the Street Fighter 2 variants, I just couldn't resist, and they do come packed with a lot of accessories to make it a pretty good value for money set, to be honest. I won't bother going through the packaging. You get the usual sort of box art and pictures of the figures and so on, but I do like the instruction sheets, which aren't too major, but I do like the classic artwork from the Street Fighter 2 game there, which does point out a couple of differences that are a little bit annoying with the figures that I think would have made them a little bit better, but we'll get on that shortly. I do love these backgrounds from the original game, and I'm not sure if these are straight from the recent Ultra version or just from the original, but they always remind me of the classic game. So I'll get these out of the way. Accessories wise, comes with, each of them comes with their Hadouken fireball. It comes with a whole bunch of extra pegs and so on to vary up the heights and things like that. I think I've just got all three of the short ones on these two. It's good that they've got the two variants, with Ken's being a bit rounder and Ryu showing that sort of trailing fireball at the end there. And it's very soft plastic. I think the SH Figure Arts ones are a little bit more rigid, but this softer plastic seems to work pretty well, and I do like the blue tinge through them. So they're a good way to pose up the figure. I do like that Ken comes with his flaming fireball, and on the fist there it actually fits pretty well. You sort of just slide the fist in there and it makes a very good effect if you're doing that heavy punch, dragon punch. So I do like that. With Ryu, it doesn't come with any other sort of things apart from these spare headbands. I'm not sure why they gave so many, unless they're worried that this peg here is going to snap or something. But I actually thought there was going to be some variants, flying in the wind or different styles, but they all look pretty much identical. So I guess they're just spares in case you snap anything. My favourite part of these releases are, of course, the different head sculpts. I do like their sort of stoic head sculpts there, but I do love these alternate head sculpts with their sort of loser face, which I just picked the wrong one. I think it's this one here. So I love the fact that they've done that to represent that loser screen. The paint application is actually pretty good. Although Ken's blood here does look a little bit more orange than red. What I do like the best is that they're completely separate head sculpts, not just faceplate swap outs like the Bandai figures and a few others. So I like that they went the way of providing all the head sculpts. And overall the sculpting and the hair detailing is pretty good. Bit more sort of shading in the hair would have been nice, but I think the sculpt itself is very nicely done. Now that I think about it, those headbands might be just for the alternate head sculpts, not as spare pieces, so you don't have to keep taking it out. So I think you can just put one in each of the three head sculpts, which now that I see that, makes a lot more sense than having spares for no reason. So good that they've done that. Also comes with the angrier sort of head sculpts, so I think those are good for the heavy dragon punch and getting ready for a fireball or something like that. So I think they've done a good job there. I like the eyebrows, and it's very sort of accurate to the more cartoony style of the Ultra Street Fighter 2. And then of course Ken with his smirk there, which is also appropriate for him, and the grimace from Ryu. And of course it comes with the whole slew of hands. The sculpting on these two are pretty much identical, except for slight variations in paint. I think the only slight variation in the paint application is the skin texture on Ken here is slightly more orange, or I guess you could say they tried to replicate the tan effect of his beach lifestyle, I guess, but didn't pull it off too well. I would have preferred just like Ryu here, but it's not too bad. It matches the way they've done the rest of the figure's body, so at least it's consistent with that. But all the action hands are there with, you know, preparing for the fireball. Oh, I guess you could do this one as preparing for the fireball, and this one after it's come out. And these are the sort of action jazz hands. But onto the main figures. Right, I'll just quickly do a comparison with the SH Figure Arts versions, and you'll see that they are quite different in style, size, and overall aesthetic really. They're much thinner than these more stocky Storm Collectibles versions. I think that's probably my biggest gripe with the Storm Collectibles versions, and particularly with Ryu and Ken here. They do look a little too stocky. Would have been great if the legs were just that half a centimetre or so taller, just to give the overall body proportions a bit more realism. And I think if you look at the original artwork, you'll see that the legs in comparison with the torso are longer, and just give it that bit more sort of accurate reflection of body proportions. I do like that they're more muscular than the SH Figure Arts versions, and I think the head sculpts overall are much better as well. Now I guess the SH Figure Arts versions were marketed as Street Fighter 5 versions. That's probably the version of Street Fighter that I haven't played much at all, although I do watch some of the tournaments on YouTube. But I think the overall aesthetic of Street Fighter 2 is better suited for my collection anyway, and the memories of me in the arcade. I do like the orange and the red handguards and so on the SH Figure Arts versions. I'm not sure why they went with the brown on Ryu. I'll probably have to go back to the game, but even the artwork here shows red. So I actually remembered red from the cartoon, so no, sorry, not the cartoon, the arcade game. But I'll have to go back and check some photos from the actual arcades to see if that was brown or red. But there's the comparison with SH Figure Arts. Alright, for a closer look at these figures, there's articulation in all the usual places. The arms come out quite high. This joint is a little bit tight. There is a bit of squeakiness in the legs here, so just be careful of that in case I don't think there's any sort of risk of anything snapping off, but that squeakiness is a little bit worrying at times. It does come out pretty wide, so you can get them into all the required poses. Now I guess I did find the elbow articulation, it only gets to about 90 degrees even though it's double jointed, and the same for the knees. The knees get to maybe just on 90, which is a bit disappointing. I would have thought it'd go higher than that, unless I'm doing something wrong. But overall I think it hides the joints fairly well. All the paint application is pretty seamless there, and you get all the sort of nice sculpting in the musculature and so on. I think would have been nice if this really soft sort of rubber gi fit a little bit better. I think part of the issue with the proportion is that it sort of sits too wide, but if you sort of bunch it in towards the middle and pull it down a little bit, there is a bit of play in it, so you can adjust it. But again, the legs do look a little bit too stocky and a bit pudgy, especially in the thighs here. They're pretty massive thighs. He's always had big feet, but I think they could have done a little bit better there. I do like this really soft sort of plastic in the tie there. I don't even know what that's called. The belt. I guess it's just called a black belt. But the usual kanji there, which is good. Head articulation. The head joint does seem a little bit too small. Sort of does rub against the neck there, so probably be a bit careful on any paint rub, and you can sort of see some sort of scratches and so on mine already. So just be careful on that one. But overall, I think you can take that off the belt as well and reveal all the musculature there. So overall, not too bad. Mine's got a bit of red bleeding on there. I think you can just rub that off. On Ken, pretty much the same. Same sort of soft plastic on the gi. I'm not sure if there's any color bleed on the red. There might be, so just be careful of that if you're going to take his gi off and display him topless. But with Ryu, I think they've pretty much just used the same body. Let me see if that's true. Actually, it does look like there are slight molding differences. The sort of curvature of the dents there seem a little bit different to the ones on Ken here. So it's not like they've completely gone reuse, but I think it's very similar regardless. All the articulation is the same for these guys. I do like the sort of toe bend there, give that extra bit of posability. This one doesn't squeak as much. Overall, it's not too bad. Swapping out the hands is fairly straightforward too. Just a little ball peg there, so nothing too hard to, or nothing that feels like it's going to break. I think with the Bandai SH Figure Arts versions, the joints are very small because the figures are a bit smaller, and I did worry about some of the snappages there. I haven't snapped anything, but it does feel quite a lot more delicate than the Storm versions. But overall, I think if you're into Street Fighter 2, you'll be pretty happy with these figures. I've seen some photos from the bloggers that really get these into some amazing action poses, so I'll be using those definitely for some inspiration in my display. I do have Guile and Sagat coming up soon. I actually thought those were coming out first. I think the SDCC exclusive versions came out first, but I just went with the regular classic colors. And hopefully they come within the next couple of weeks, and I can give you my thoughts on those as well. But in the meantime, hopefully you can give this video a like and subscribe to the channel as well to stay tuned for all the upcoming stuff I have. But hopefully you like that quick look. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.